Hello and welcome to EPOP Academic English 2 Writing Week 3. This week we're going to look at describing trends in graphs and tables using paragraphs. So the first question that we need to answer is, what is a trend? And a trend is a noticeable change in a situation or in the way something usually behaves. So for example, 15 years ago, most people bought music on CDs. Today, most people buy and download music from the internet. So these two sentences are showing different trends in the way that people are buying and obtaining music. So when you're describing changes in graphs and tables and trends, there are three basic patterns. You have rising and increasing or an upward trend, falling, decreasing or a downward trend, and lastly, when it remains the same. So when you are describing trends in tables and graphs, the examiner will want you to show that you have a wide range of vocabulary that you can use. And you'll see that in the textbook, there is this really helpful table that gives you many different options, nouns, verbs, and phrases that you can use to describe trends in graphs and tables. So here along the top row, you have nouns. So here you have some nouns that can describe an upward trend. So a rise, an increase, a surge, and a growth. Here, a downward trend, a fall, a drop, a decline, a dip, a peak where it reaches its maximum, a fluctuation where it's going up and down, a period of stability where it's remaining the same, and a plateau where it rises and then it flattens out here, levels off for a period of time. Okay, so you have the equivalent verbs in the second row here for those nouns. And then finally, in the third row, you have a range of really helpful phrases to describe trends. So to show an upward trend, here to show a downward trend, to hit the lowest point, to hit a trough, to reach a peak. So again, I highly recommend you take some time to look at this table and really to learn as many as you can of these nouns, verbs, and phrases. So adjectives and adverbs will also come in very helpful when describing changes and trends in tables and graphs. To quickly refresh your memory, adjectives describe nouns. So in this case, there has been a rapid increase in music sales on the internet since 2000. Here the adjective is rapid and the noun is increase. Whereas adverbs describe verbs, and they're usually formed by taking the adjective and adding ly. So, for example, music sales on the internet have increased rapidly since 2000. So here is the adverb rapidly, and then the verb have increased. So again, in the textbook, you are given this very helpful table to describe trends with adjectives and adverbs. And again, I'd recommend that you take time to really learn these. Okay. So I've given here an example of a graph with this curve, and here is both the adjective and the adverb to describe this particular curve. So a sharp rise, it rises sharply. Okay, and if we invert that particular graph, we get a sharp fall, and it falls sharply. So when you're writing your paragraph to describe trends and changes in a table or a graph, there are some important things to consider. Firstly, you need to state the purpose of the table or the graph and provide a brief overview. Very importantly, you need to select the key trends or features in that graph or table. You don't need to describe everything that you see, but only the most important things. And you need to illustrate those key trends or features with figures, with data, with numbers from the table or graph. And you also need to make links between your key points. And lastly, if appropriate, you need to make a simple and relevant rounding off point. So you'll see in the textbook this particular example of a graph. So I'm going to quickly provide you with a description of this graph using some of the phrases and nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs that we've come across in this presentation. Okay, so to state the purpose, this graph shows the annual sales of hamburgers in 2007 at a restaurant called Harry's. And as an overview, it is showing how the sales of hamburgers is rising and falling from month to month during the year from January to December. So firstly, the graph shows that between January and March that the sales of hamburgers remained relatively stable at just under 2,000 hamburgers per month. Then between March and May, the number of hamburgers sold declined slightly to around 1,750 hamburgers sold in the month of May, before rising again slightly to around 1,800 hamburgers sold in June. Then between June and August, there was a surge in sales. And the number of hamburgers rose sharply from the 1,800 sold in June to a peak of 3,000 hamburgers sold in August. Then between August and October, the number of hamburgers sold declined rapidly. And there was a sharp fall in the number of monthly sales, down to a trough in October of around 1,250 hamburgers sold in that month. Then between October and December, the number of hamburgers sold rose gradually to around 1,700 hamburgers sold. So the graph shows that between the months of July and September, Harry's restaurant sold the most hamburgers, and October was the worst month for hamburger sales. Okay, so that gives you some examples of how you can describe this particular graph. So all the best of luck with week 3. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.